of Adventures of Lolo. I cannot recall what Tumble Pop is all about.
Well, I'm not even making the first one. I'm sure I don't know.
But thank God they released Street Fighter 2010 on 3DS. And Warriors Woods. You can't have the 3DS without Warriors Woods. This is a Wii Forward game.
I don't
Pretty interesting. I thought this was PG.
I don't care that much. You should kind of move out this one.
We got the gist.
Actually, yeah. I don't think I can just take them.
This is... Well, either way, I mean, a lot of this stuff is pretty much going to be the same thing. I mean, we're just going to see a lot of repeats. But that was the 3DS eShop. And that was how I spent a Sunday night.
Loaded sausage bites.
No fork, no plate, no throw.
Chloe and ready with Mel's and we need a real. Make it real. Compare travel credit cards that help you book adventures beyond your backyard. Where everybody there?
Honestly, rather than
On their wallet.
Hey all, Scott here. I hate rumors. Ever since the dawn of time, they've been used to spoiling major reveals, and ever since they've been primarily used to get the attention of Nintendo fans, such as this one, Nintendo's lineup for 2021. This one's fake. This is unlike anything else, just that feeling of excitement. It's familiar to your old console, but bigger and better and all new. But because of that, rumors start floating around, and you start to ask some questions. Pretty much with any upcoming video game console, you get fishy statements from the dark alleyways of the internet. Articles reading, yeah sure, it'll make you lunch. Some info may leak out ahead of time and turn out to be true. And then there's this. Rumors and leaks are either what keeps the excitement rolling or what kills it immediately. Every system has them, and I think it's as good a time as any to pick a console and go through the gossip throughout its life. So, let's see what system we'll be scouring. Damn it, the Nintendo 3DS, a monumental leap forward for all things called 3DS. It was a Nintendo handheld, of course it did well, but its main gimmick was the glasses-free 3D screen. Now, back when this portable was announced, 3D was the thing, as in everybody went to go see the movie Avatar in 3D and then gave up. I consider it to be a fad. I mean, that was one of the biggest movies of all time, so all these companies worked on a bunch of 3D-centric products like 3D TVs and 3D
It's so ridiculous to fucking people care about that movie.
3D glasses were almost always required to enjoy 3D content, which could sometimes ruin the magic. You take those glasses off and the screen's just a blurry mess. It kind of reinforced the idea that the 3D visuals you were experiencing were just mere illusions. So the idea of glasses for 3D was incredibly intriguing. Not needing glasses made way for experiences to be so much more engaging and immersive, so it's no surprise that once the technology for glasses for 3D became more easily implementable into consumer products, it was. Yeah, a cell phone with glasses for 3D, it's like the clock's really there. But Nintendo was one of the first big companies to embrace the tech in their juicy new handheld system, which brings us back to 2009. In 2009, the Nintendo DS was hitting its stride with multiple revisions and an enormous library of titles. However, it was 5-year-old hardware at this point. People were starting to ask when the next generation of Nintendo handhelds was hitting the scene, a Nintendo DS2, if you will. Then Nintendo President Satoru Iwata made a brief statement on the matter to the Japanese publication Asahi Shimbun, revealing the Nintendo DS successor will have highly detailed graphics and it will be necessary to have a sensor with the ability to read the movements of people playing. Just like that, huh? I mean, on the surface, it doesn't seem like much info. Like, of course, your next handheld is going to have better graphics. And yeah, it was probably a given it was going to have motion detection in it, but come on, this is Nintendo. They don't even like revealing if their employees go to the bathroom. I want to just let out 2 facts about their next handheld, and that there is, in fact, going to be a next handheld. Nintendo then barked in and said, you don't know that. This interview was later clarified to be a misinterpretation of Nintendo's future plans by a spokesperson for the company. See, that's the Nintendo I know. Claiming what somebody said was false and then later be the liars themselves. Of course they're making a successor to the DS, of course it's going to have better graphics, of course it's going to have motion sensors in it. Why bother hiding it after Iwata said it? Iwata himself made further statements on the interview asking if better graphics and motion sensing would be enough to sell a DS successor. You can't just have better graphics and more controls, you need something else. Sex appeal! Late 2009 to early 2010, speculation started to ramp up for a DS2, with rumors that many were receiving development kits around this time, specifically the Pokemon Company. Couple that with patents Nintendo was filing, we have our themselves articles, and 2 of them. So Nintendo patented rumble technology that would be transmitted to the DS stylus pen. So if you hit an enemy in a touchscreen-based game, you'd receive feedback in the stylus. And on top of that, some new cartridges. Now the stylus rumble never came to be, but the new DS cartridges, the 3DS had differently shaped game cards, but barely. They were designed this way to ensure they fit in a Nintendo 3DS, but don't fit in a Nintendo DS. They never got these overly long cartridges like this pad suggests. However, I believe this could be in relation to DS development cartridges, which were longer than retail ones. As 2010 made its way through the door, rumors persisted about the next DS. One guy decided to snoop around the Game Developers Conference that year to find as much info as he could. His findings? I'll take anything at this point. Basically, he discovered the system was going to be more powerful than the Nintendo DS. Shut the fuck up! Graphical capabilities were comparable to the GameCube, and while the system would have 2 screens again, they would be bigger, have a better resolution, and the gap between them would be shrunken significantly. I mean, a lot of those did happen with the 3DS, but a shrunken gap between the 2 screens, I don't think so. People were asking developers what they wanted out of a new DS, with one saying cellular and GPS. That's the one thing I wanted to worry about playing Pac-Mix, a data plan. Heck, why would Nintendo announce a DS2 in 2010? They were just about to release a brand new DS revision, the TSI XL. I don't get you. On March 23rd, 2010, Nintendo officially announced a successor to the Nintendo DS. It wasn't called the Nintendo DS2, it was the Nintendo 3DS. I mean, sure for nothing, this was going to be a press release, thus the system wasn't shown. In fact, the name Nintendo 3DS was considered temporary at the time. The big reveal was that it had a screen capable of displaying 3D imagery without the need for glasses, which was actually teased by Iwata during an interview a few months prior. The question related to his stance on 3D gaming. His response was pretty much for the glasses. DS games would be fully compatible with the handheld, and the 3DS was supposed to be formally shown later that year at E3 2010. Of course, with the official announcement out of the way, we got a treasure trove of Photoshop. Anybody with a finger, a mouse, and an open weekend whipped up what they thought the 3DS would be. Notice how I didn't say anybody with a brain. I'm kidding. A lot of the system mock-ups are pretty well done and crazy impressive, especially for 2010. But that doesn't mean they're above getting critiqued. Hello everybody, and welcome to Critique Alley, the show for people looking for meaning in their life. You just have to look really hard. We here at Critique Alley take our lead critiquer titles very seriously. It's not every day somebody goes to the effort of opening up Photoshop, so we really have to embrace each and every league we can. It's sure is time to erase one word from the Zelda logo. During 2017 to 2018, there were some rumors floating around about a Link's Awakening remake heading to the Nintendo 3DS. Now, that ended up being for the Nintendo Switch, and while I do believe that remake probably started life on the 3DS, this isn't it. This guy decided to be clever and lazy. See, the title The Legend of Zelda Awakening follows the format of another Game Boy remake on 3DS, Metroid Samus Returns, and take the original title and shape the words out of it for the remake. The problem is, Nintendo wouldn't use the original Zelda logo from the 90s with no real alterations for a new release of theirs, even if it is for a remake. However, I will put this thing above the wall to remind me no matter how lazy I am, I could be lazier. Nintendo obviously announced the 3DS early to get ahead of leaks. When you buy millions of tiny 3D screens from a company to put into your handheld, that's probably going to get out there. And Nintendo does like to control their own destiny. They don't like people announcing stuff for them. So they announced their new handheld in their own special way. This, of course, raised many questions. Rumors spread like wildfire. Developers were saying all these things about the system. EA said it was cool. Around this time, somebody asked Nintendo customer support about Golden Sun Dark Dawn for the DS, and they responded with, "We can't say anything, but definitely keep an eye on the 3DS at E3 this year." Did that mean Golden Sun Dark Dawn was coming to the 3DS? I've seen dead people go farther than that story ever did. Nintendo's trademarks for the system started to become public. Terms like Nintendo 3DSware. Now, WiiWare and DSiWare were terms used variables. How many people were living in the house and where and what. Downloadable only games on those respective systems. Will the 3DS have similar terminology? Will the 3DS be in widescreen? Will Animal Crossing be a launch title? Will the 3DS be cool? A blogger who supposedly had their hands on a development kit for the system posted this mock-up, which was literally just a DS with a bigger screen. To be fair, the info shared alongside the mock-up ended up being fairly accurate, although they were unsure if it would have an analog stick. The big rumor going into E3 2010 was the report that NVIDIA was supplying Nintendo with the Tegra chip to use in the 3DS. Nintendo are totally swapping spit right now as they supply the chipset for the Nintendo Switch. But talks started with the 3DS. There were definite discussions to have the company power the handheld, but plans fell through. Rumors of an NVIDIA Nintendo system emerged around 2009, but were put to bed in June of 2010. Developers were asking about the system, with many saying, "Oh yeah, this thing is more powerful than a Wii. Hell, we can make stuff on par with Xbox 360 games. This thing can barely play Luigi's Mansion." Nintendo's E3 2010 press conference finally brought us our first look at the Nintendo 3DS. It was fundamentally a DS inspired by a layer cake. A widescreen display, circle pad, gyroscope, glasses, 3D motion sensor, 3D cameras, glasses, 3D street pass, glasses, 3D. Nintendo really hated those glasses. What a press conference. Everybody was jazzed about the 3DS. Attendees were pumped about how the 3D actually works. Kidding or surprising being unveiled alongside the system after so many people clamored for the series' return? With Animal Crossing, Mario Kart, Paper Mario, Nintendo's Ocarina of Time 3D, Professor Layton, Starbucks 64, Steel Diver, and Steel Diver, and numerous classic games being demonstrated on it. This was going to be an amazing handheld. The 3DS's design was near final in the show with some slight tweaks. For example, the circle pad was color-coded to the system and it wasn't actually called circle pad. It's saying hello to Slide. But of course, with so much excitement and misinformation around this time, some achievements and voice chat being implemented alongside the ability to copy games to the system's memory spread around. Leaks of a release date in November 2010, or just many days in general. I swear literally there was a rumor of it releasing in every month of 2010. Some Nintendo developers hinted to Mario making an appearance on the 3DS. I hope they winked after saying that. Nintendo's European website stated Paper Mario for the 3DS was releasing on March 25th, 2011. Give or take a year and a half, they went that far off. But in actuality, while that was the incorrect date for Paper Mario, that ended up being the exact day the Nintendo 3DS launched in Europe. This era of the 3DS was filled with developer interviews basically saying, "Can you imagine this game on the 3DS? Like Devil's Third." Keep telling yourself that. Nintendo interviews were actually very telling in this age. Hideki Kono pretty much said, "Yeah, I can see a Luigi's Mansion sequel on 3DS." Less than a year later, how did he get away with that? Miyamoto teased that Super Mario World would make a return on the 3DS. I have no clue what he meant by that. Like the original game, a remake, the original world, a 3D version of Mario World, because some of those sort of happened, but I have no idea what he was talking about based on this interview. Trademarks Nintendo filed a delay revealing the names CrossPass and titles with 3D in them. These definitely became a lot of the built-in software on 3DS, like Street Pass and the AR games. Specs were rumored alongside backlit buttons. No. So this footage of the canceled game Mine Garden had this lower quality CGI model of the 3DS, and because of that, the buttons looked illuminated. I find absolutely no reason to backlight 4 small buttons on anything with 3D or rest of the title. The latter half of 2010 was filled with a lot of stuff like this. Speculation on this thing we already knew quite a bit about. It was just a matter of waiting for it to actually release at this point. Lots of rumors of the system's release date or release window floated around constantly. However, one of the last news stories of the year was the rumor that the Monster Hunter series was jumping platforms. It was primarily a PlayStation franchise at this point and did tremendously well over there. But with the 3DS looming over, Capcom CEO hinted that with the release of the new system, especially after Monster Hunter Tribe was a Wii exclusive, this may find a new home. Of course, that happened. Now all we had to do in 2011 was wait for the system to get into somebody's hand. That was quick. So these logos made the rounds in early 2012 and were supposedly a set of Zelda titles. One called the Ice Prophecy, one called the Fire Prophecy. Obviously being a dual release puts these in line with workable seasons and ages from Game Boy Color. I gotta be honest, at first glance, there's not a ton to pick apart with these ones. They're fairly well done. However, somebody who spoke Japanese came forward and stated that the kanji used in the titles were nonsensical. You could obviously use Google Translate or something to create a Japanese text. As somebody who doesn't speak Japanese, I gotta say, what a fucking idiot. Somebody swiped the 3DS off the production line and yup, they sure had a camera with them. Before the system release, Nintendo showcased the prototype of it. I'm sorry I interrupted you. Pikmin for 3DS was listed by some random retailer, and while Pikmin for 3DS was announced 5.5 years later, I don't think they had that much foresight. The 3DS ended up launching to an overwhelming so hey! Launch item wasn't terrible, and there was stuff to play, but you can make the argument games so stuff. Calling these games stuff is kind of B-tier titles, nothing amazing, especially from Nintendo themselves. Like, holy shit, Pilot Wings, Nintendogs, and Steel Diver? Did they really expect anybody to unironically go, holy shit, Pilot Wings, Nintendogs, and Steel Diver? But people knew the goods were coming eventually. Ocarina of Time 3D, Star Fox 64 3D, Mario 3D Platform, Mario Kart, things were looking up. People were excited for the future of the system, and because of that, let's talk one of the biggest rumors in the early days of the 3DS, the Nintendo 3DS Lite. A redesigned and refined version of the handheld in a similar fashion to the Nintendo DS Lite. Basically, people were waiting for the 3DS to get out of those growing pains and have a way better model. Everybody was saying, yeah, that's great, where's your hotter sun? Better battery life, better screens, better 3D effect, better design, a second circle pad, just a few things people were wanting. The new 3DS with the second circle pad was always talked about, and it was primarily because around this time was when Sony announced the successor to the PSP, the next generation of portable NGP, featuring not one, but two reasons to not buy a 3DS. People just automatically jumped to the fact that the 3DS needed a second stick just because the NGP had one. Due to all this, Nintendo had to respond to the press about a new 3DS model before the first model even came out. But they may have had to ask that because of the late launch of the system. One else was the press going to ask Nintendo, plus the Move Universe is on the 3DS, how does that make you feel? Games and news were sparse leading up to E3 2011 that summer. Mario and Sonic at the London 2012 Olympic Games for the 3DS was leaked via a check press release. Please say holy shit. Most leaks and rumors had to do with retailers accidentally listing games before they were to be officially announced. But Rayman Origins and Sonic Generations had the hardest time staying surprised, kept getting listed multiple times before their announcements, especially Sonic Generations for 3DS. Sega themselves accidentally included it on an earnings report, quickly said, oh god, removed it, and announced it like a month later. Now one of the big games we were looking forward to seeing more on was the 3D Mario game for 3DS announced at the Game Developers Conference in 2011, and right before E3, this screenshot circulated around, and it was just a Photoshop of another game, but hey, at least it was news about the 3DS. E3 2011 happened, and the 3DS definitely had a fair amount of coverage. You got trailers for Super Mario 3D, Mario Kart 3D, Kid Icarus Uprising, and Luigi's Mansion 2 was fully unveiled, but that didn't prepare us for Battlefield 3 on the 3DS being listed by EA Portugal. However, E3 2011 was definitely focused on Nintendo's new home console announcement, the Wii U. It was announced, and that's all I can say about the legacy of this system. During that summer, the 3DS wasn't running hard. Sure, Ocarina of Time 3D came out, but it didn't do enough to turn around the slow sales for the system, so Nintendo had to make the difficult decision to cut the price from $150 to $170. To make the price get seem that much less for those who bought a 3DS near launch, Nintendo announced that 20 NES and Game Boy Advance games would be given to them for free. Being announced right there on the screen, others being announced at a later date. Nintendo came back to saying Mario 3 was going to be one of them, and it wasn't. Quickly, the biggest rumor in the summer of 2011 was that Nintendo had something up their sleeves. People were complaining that the 3DS only had one circle pad, and a rumor popped up that they would be releasing an attachment for the handheld that upped that one to two. This rumor was accompanied by one that stated Nintendo was going to release a new 3DS model in 2012 that would de-emphasize the 3D alongside a new design and name. Now, there was a new 3DS model in 2012, the Nintendo 3DS XL. It was none of this. I mean, it was a new design, there were different elements to it, but when you get down to it, the 3DS XL was basically just a bigger 3DS, so not a radically new look or anything. This rumor, however, perfectly describes the 3DS model Nintendo released in 2013, the Nintendo 2DS. Another 3D screen, completely new design, different name. To get the release year wrong, but I wouldn't be surprised if this is what they were talking about. But back to the second circle pad, more reports popped up pertaining to it, including many claiming it would be revealed in the Japanese magazine Famitsu alongside Monster Hunter Tri-G. The description of the device leaked out when the Famitsu article came. What the hell is that? Finally, a soap dish for my 3DS. This thing was a behemoth, but it was a necessary behemoth. This was made specifically to combat criticism of the 3DS compared to the upcoming NGP by Sony, finally renamed the PlayStation Vita, and to also lure in more traditional games, stuff like Metal Gear and Resident Evil. I believe this thing was made just to show people up about the 3DS needing a second stick, because when it came out, there's nothing I can really say about it. It came out, it was barely supported, and nobody bought it. In one second, I know some people bought it, you don't have to tell me, Scott, I bought the circle pad, bro, I go to bed with it every night. A rumor floated around that Xenoblade developer Monolith Soft was working on a 3DS title, and it was a threequel, the third title in a Bullet series. This obviously pointed to a third Behind Kaitos game, as that was one of the only Monolith Soft series that could have gotten a third game, but nothing happened. Monolith Soft did develop the Project Crosszone games for the 3DS, and Xenoblade was brought over to the new 3DS in 2015, but other than that, they didn't do all too much on the system. As fall came around, Super Mario 3DS and Mario Kart 3DS were both given names. And they could have been worse. Oh,
yo, what's up? It's me, Samuel L. Jackson. I play the Samurai Cat in the new animated theatrical film, Balls of Fury, The Legend of Hank. Meow!
Although artwork of Mario 3D Land was revealed, many with keen eyes discovered Tanuki Luigi was in the game. Fans discovered what Nintendo was too scared to reveal. Following the Nintendo 3DS Lite, we have one of the other big rumors that persisted constantly: The Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask 3D. After Ocarina of Time 3D, a remake of that game seemed like a no-brainer. Pretty much every interview with Zelda producer Eiji Aonuma contained a question about Majora's Mask remake on 3DS. Fan campaigns and consistent teasing occurred for years. Nintendo knew how much people wanted this and would put Easter eggs in the games or bring it up during interviews, but it was always eclipsed by the rumor that Sonic Generations 3DS may get delayed to 2012. It did, but still. During the Majora's Mask 3D hysteria from 2011 to 2014, various rumors came out about the game's existence. Retail listings hints from Nintendo. It was a game that just had to come out at some point, and I specifically remember retail listings would use fan box art sometimes, and I will take this as an opportunity to say this box art was really good, but I liked the fan box art that was more in line with Ocarina 3D. I am a big supporter of that. But here we have some fan art that some people took as a real Majora's Mask 3DS XL, purple and all. The perfect color for Majora's Mask system. And what Majora's Mask system did we get? I'm glad I'm colorblind. While talking to Majora's Mask, I think confirmed that new Zelda game for 3DS was being worked on, and later on in another interview stated that there were talks about a 3D Link to the Past remake. They would not let up about Link to the Past on 3DS, with talks of a remake and even potentially a sequel. Looking back, it's obvious why they want to shut up about it, because they were making it. Honestly, even when Nintendo's pretty blunt about this kind of stuff, they still surprise me. Near the end of 2011, it was reported that the 7th game in a popular JRPG franchise would get an enhanced remake for the 3DS. Now, many assumed it would either be Dragon Quest VII or Final Fantasy VII, and between those two, it turned out to be Dragon Quest, which was announced a year later. At the start of 2012, we're coming in hot with something that hasn't been rumored yet. The Nintendo 3DS Lite thinner and better battery.
Get me out of here. Get me out of here.
2012 was a very awesome year for the 3DS, and starting with another rumor about the 3DS Lite solidified that. One thing that did leak that got people talking is the box art for the Final Fantasy. Top left corner there with the logo for something called Nintendo Network. As more box art started popping up with this logo, I wondered, what is this? I assumed it was new branding for the Nintendo Wi-Fi connection. Nintendo popped this logo in the corners of games that supported internet connectivity, and I wasn't wrong. Nintendo Network was pretty much that. That was like the logo name for this. It's a shame it only appeared during this generation. Like I said, 2012 was kind of a whatever year for the 3DS. It was obvious Nintendo was really prevalent when Wii U's launch, so the 3DS took a bit of a backseat. Why do I say this? We got press releases like this. Nintendo hired a spokesdog. Soul Calibur 5 was listed for the 3D. Oh, my favorite one was when EB Games had box art for Donkey Kong 3D up. They then said it was a mistake and probably destroyed their entire stock of fake box art. The year after this rumor, Donkey Kong Country Returns 3D was announced, and the art used on this box was from Donkey Kong Country Returns. But it doesn't mean anything. I've been onto something. It was reported that Nintendo was attempting to fund third-party franchise revivals on the 3DS, with one of the series being the infamous Seaman. 3 years later, in 2015, a Seaman 3DS game was confirmed to be in development at some point, but it ended up being canceled. It is unfortunate, because as Seaman is, I feel like the 3DS would have been the perfect platform for it. But since that was confirmed to be in development, that means Nintendo was seeking other franchises to be revived on the system, which is pretty interesting. I know they said third-party, but the developer of Seaman made Odama on the GameCube, which was published by Nintendo. Why didn't we get Odama 3D? A few months before E3 2012, other 3DS titles were being rumored, such as a companion title to Epic Mickey 2 on the system, this one being 2D entitled Power of Illusion, a follow-up to Castle of Illusion on the Sega Genesis. That was completely true. Nintendo of America went on a rampage registering website domain names, and what happened to slip through? FireEmblemAwakening.com. Fire Emblem on 3DS was just about to release in Japan at this time, but no word of it coming over to North America or Europe just yet. While it wasn't official for a couple more months, this was pretty blatant confirmation. And not only did their domain registrations leak, but some patents came out too. If Nintendo killed on it, it would probably leak through a patent. This one showcases a new circle pad design akin to the style of the GameCube controller stick, and this one focuses on AR technology, where, for example, the game tells you, find me something blue, anxiety attack follows, find something blue, bam, you win. Say it was Chibi Robo Photo Finder. That game asks you to find real-life objects to take pictures of and transport into the game, which is the vibe I'm getting from this pattern. This one shows up using the stylus to control the game without touching the top screen, so I assume this would have been a way to eliminate touchscreens from built to the 3D screen of the 3DS with a vibrating stylus. And no matter how useless and wasteful money you think this idea is, why you try to do what the 3DS is doing? I mean, you can't. Castlevania Mirror of Faith for the 3DS was rumored for E3 2012. Almost knew it. But here we have the big rumor to end all rumors, the Nintendo 3DS XL. Figure reported that Nintendo was set to reveal a 3DS with a bigger screen similar to the Nintendo DSi XL at E3 2012. This was accompanied by Wii U pricing info, but Nintendo said these rumors were false. This is Nintendo 3DS XL. What the hell happened there? We actually looked at Nintendo's response to these rumors. They said some things are incorrect. Alright, so the 3DS XL isn't something. Now going back to Fire Emblem Awakening's domain registration, you may ask, when did it officially get revealed for the States? Reggie Fils-Aimé got in front of some journals at E3 2012 and proudly said, Fire Emblem Awakening's coming to Nintendo 3DS. Damn it. Apparently he wasn't supposed to say that, but he sure did. Alongside Fire Emblem, another game that was rumored to be localized at some point was Tomodachi Life, known in Japan as Tomodachi Collection. This eventually made it over in 2014, but a localization was consistently talked about beforehand. Then rumors of its translation started when many assumed the title over here would be Communicator Gamers Collection. Moving on, Alpha Dream, the developers of the Mario & Luigi series, filed a patent in 2012 showcasing how a character on the bottom screen of the 3DS would be manipulated to then help a character on the top screen progress through the level.
What the fuck's he running?
This is literally Mario & Luigi Dream Team a year before it was announced. With the 3DS XL's introduction, many retailers started to promote the product, with one getting a little too excited.
What's on the water?
That's not right. Look at the circle pad. I'm telling you, people would have killed for a second circle pad. Look at all the 3DS games that could use a second circle pad. Tetris Access, Tetris Ultimate, I need this. Can you imagine if you had access to a top secret Nintendo game and all you had on you was a flip book for a camera and decided to only film the title screen?
You should piss me off, I did.
It's a fucking handout system. You can't film it there, but you can never bring it to the bathroom. Now, the rest of 2012 was pretty light in terms of rumors and speculation, but when 2013 came along, that's when things started to heat up. The best year in 3DS history. Every single month there was a new experience from Nintendo themselves. It was bliss. And it all started out with the announcement of a Pokemon Nintendo Direct in January. Now, keep in mind, a Pokemon 3DS title had been long awaited for at this point. They kept making games for the DS when the 3DS was a thing, but when the live stream happened, then you saw the keywords 3DS in the description, implying that this wasn't going to be Pokemon 2 for the Nintendo DS, this was going to be a big boy game. Monster Hunter 4 was a 3DS exclusive, but after it got a delay, rumors persisted of it all being so a PlayStation Vita version could release alongside it. Never. It's actually surprising to me that Monster Hunter never made it to the Vita, but the website that reported that can always dream. Many 3DS rumors at this point had to do with trademark filings leaking out or retailer listings just having the time of their lives. New Super Luigi for the 3DS? Why not? Angry Birds Star Wars? It sure did. Lego Friends? Lego? Of course, there was the coveted special edition systems that always seemed to be announced via ads or through store inventory systems before Nintendo could even think about making them. Pokemon X and Y systems were reported via Target's inventory. Zelda Link Between Worlds and Luigi's Mansion Dark Moon bundles were shown off in weekly ads. This Mario & Luigi Dream Team 3DS XL floated around a bit before releasing, and by God, I remember they could not sell this for the lifetime. For a special edition system, it sure went on sale a lot. This Luigi 2DS turned out to be a fake made by a fan. Would you look at that? I mean, this stuff was the most exciting 3DS speculation at the time. Mario and Sonic at the Sochi 2014 Olympic Winter Games is coming to the 3DS. Oh, never mind. Forget Mega Luigi 2DS. Now, a pretty common way for games to get leaked is through the rating system. When a game gets rated, be prepared for anarchy. Steel Divers Sub-Wars was ousted through these means alongside NES release for Wii U. A sequel to Steel Diver was leaked through the Australian classification website. Now, I don't usually get pissed about things leaking. This was an exception. Something consistently rumored with the 3DS was legacy content from other systems being available on the Nintendo eShop. We got NES, Game Boy, Game Boy Color, and Game Gear at this point, but strangely, Reggie did say years prior that TurboGrafx 16 games would be available. I'm still waiting. And while Game Boy Advance was available to early adopters of the 3DS as a Please God Forgives package, they were never available to the general public. That didn't stop speculation. Pretty much everybody predicted GBA games would be available on the 3DS. In fact, a lot of things led many to believe that. Various GBA titles appeared on Nintendo of Europe's website implying they were coming. But there were also SNES titles rumored for the 3DS. On Miiverse, the social media network for 3DS and Wii U, most games had communities you could harass, and one of them was the virtual console release for Contra 3 The Indian Wars on Wii U. Accessing this community on the 3DS would show the game running on a 3DS XL. What does that mean? All Miiverse communities for virtual console games on the Wii U and 3DS always had this template going on in their banner. It was either the 3DS or Wii U displaying a screenshot of the game. So if I had to guess, I'd say this was an automatic template created, gone wrong. But everything we've talked about has led to this. See, when Yoshi's New Island was coming out, a certain listing popped up online detailing a special edition Yoshi 3DS XL. It spread like wildfire. He showed off an image of the system, and he said it was hideous.
It was also made by a 16-year-old Scott.
Yeah, I got bored one day in July of 2013 and decided to make a mock-up for a special edition 3DS box. The core idea here was to just make a box for the system. I wanted to try and mimic the design of something like the Animal Crossing 3DS box. The 3DS design itself was an afterthought. I effectively gave a 3DS lip response, and then IGN reported on this thing, and so did a lot of other sites. I felt really proud about that one. The reason my fan art was used was because Yoshi 3DS was actually coming out, and one of these retailers just decided to Google Yoshi 3DS and uploaded the worst looking one they could find. To commemorate the experience, I recently bought the actual 3DS this listing was for. We're not on great spots on this one, but it's still okay. Back in 2017, Nintendo announced a multiplayer Kirby game was in the works for the 3DS, and right before E3, this year's screenshot leaked, and it is one of the better ones I've seen. The overall style of the logo looks really professional and honestly better than some other Kirby games. Now, what are Star Knights? I don't know. It seems like they thought this into a Kirby title generator. It's on a screen! You ever see a game not on a screen? This one must be true. I don't have much to say about this one other than nothing screams a fantasy adventure game more than a big fat G on the shield. Yeah, the vast majority of rumors in the latter half of the 3DS's life really had to do with new system colors and variations. I'd argue that's because while more people had a 3DS than a Wii U, the Wii U and home console rumors in general were always more exciting. That's actually something I noticed with Nintendo in general. They always hold their home console stuff in higher regards. You always see them nostalgically reminiscing about their home consoles. Their handhelds don't get nearly as much love. Case in point, what was the big 3DS talk at the time? There's a secret 2DS coming? The Smash Bros. 3DS was leaked in flyers. I mean, that was pretty interesting. It was better than the rumor about Codename Steam getting a demo via free trading cards Woo. Right before E3 2015, a trailer for the 3DS version of Hyrule Warriors was accidentally uploaded early to Tecmo Koei's YouTube channel, and during that summer it was uncovered that Mercury Steam, the developers behind Castlevania Mirror of Fate, pitched a Metroid 3DS title to Nintendo. It happened. In March of 2016, a random retailer advertised budget Nintendo Selects re-releases for Wii, Wii U, and 3DS early. Look at this advertisement. Why did this turn out to be true? I was excited about this. So, see, Pikmin 3 was really expensive at the time, so a re-release for $20 a piece, and thank you. With the 20th anniversary of Pokemon on the horizon, many were speculating the release of a new generation in the series. Because Nintendo's domain name for Pokemon Sun and Moon were linked alongside the logos. Whoops. Pretty much all of Pokemon titles for the 3DS experience just a ton of leaks, new Pokemon, new forms, everything you can think of gets leaked when the new Pokemon's on the way. Sun and Moon were pretty much the big thing for that year. 2016 was some year, and by some, I mean terrible. This thing was happening. Nintendo stated that this was the year they would announce new details on their next home console, the NX, and because of that, nothing happened. We were just constantly waiting around for the thing to get announced. But this meant 2016 was the year of speculation. I specifically recall this rumored lineup for Nintendo's year, detailing fun facts about the NX launch, marketing budgets for 2016 alongside the full 3DS lineup of games for the year. So a lot of titles are just clone names here, but they state what caliber of games they were. I can make some assumptions as to what these various codenames ended up becoming, but I can't say for sure. The European Nintendo Direct from March 2016 was leaked a day before it aired, and apparently, this is how Nintendo Directs were organized. The two big things added here were Super Nintendo games for the new Nintendo 3DS and Monster Hunter Generations. Yes, Super Nintendo games, not the new Nintendo 3DS. The updated models only, not the original ones accepted. Near the end of 2016, Nintendo finally unveiled the Nintendo NX, officially called the Nintendo Switch. With it being a home console handheld hybrid, many brought into question the 3DS's future. Will Nintendo continue to support the 3DS or immediately move on to the Switch? Turns out, this thing might die. Reports discuss the 3DS not being thrown to the side with the inception of the Switch. In fact, Nintendo was thinking of a successor to the handheld. Here's the thing. Obviously, the 3DS successor was worked on by Nintendo. If they released one to Switch, they worked on the successor to the 3DS. There's no way they weren't thinking of something internally. Now, the successor definitely ended up being the Nintendo Switch Lite, a handheld-only variant of the Nintendo Switch. But was that what these rumors were referring to? My shoulders are gonna work overtime on this one. Miyamoto then said during an interview that a GPS was considered for the 3DS. I knew something was missing from X. 2017 was an interesting year for this system, as the Nintendo Switch was exploding onto the scene. The 3DS was cruising along with a ton of support. They were primarily smaller projects like remakes, but still, 2017 had some of the most 3DS support in a long while. And one of the projects that made it onto the system was made via the eShop. Data for a game called Mario & Luigi Superstar Saga X, supposedly a remake of the original RPG on the Game Boy Advance, was spotted on Nintendo servers. Later on, an icon and full name were discovered: Mario & Luigi Superstar Saga plus Bowser's Minions. Reviews. This game was later fully revealed at E3 2017, and speaking of E3, right around this time, the Pokemon Company announced their slate of projects for the year, being Poké Tournament DX for the Nintendo Switch and Pokemon Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon for the 3DS. But leading up to this, lots of talk was surrounding a third version of Pokemon Sun and Moon for the Nintendo Switch, being Pokemon Stars. After the Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon announcements, the press site for the games listed them as Nintendo Switch titles in addition to 3DS, which ended up being a silly fucking mistake. Before the new 3DS XL was announced for North America, this banner came into GameStop and leaked online, but wondered what it could be. In April of 2014, Nintendo trademarked the title Codename Steam, Strike Team eliminating the Indian Menace. Nobody knew what it meant, but it wasn't until E3 2014 that Nintendo hosted a dedicated conference to announce Codename Steam for the 3DS. And, fun fact, did you know Codename Steam released? Later that summer, Mega Man Legacy Collection 2 was announced in 2017, a new 3DS version in sight, which, considering the first one made it onto the platform, it wasn't completely improbable to expect a 3DS version of 2. Digging through the code, though, many uncovered the inclusion of references to the 3DS, implying the 3DS version was planned at some point. Then 2018 happened, and Kirby's Extra Epic Yarn was rumored to be a new 3DS exclusive. Take that, Nintendo! Those was only for new Nintendo 3DS, but look at me playing it on a 2DS and feeling miserable. And that's how the 3DS ended things. With a bit of mystery. The last few games Nintendo released for the platform bombed, and because of that, rumors circulated that Nintendo canceled plans for other games to release on the system, like a new Fire Emblem remake. It's unfortunate, but let's be honest. Most have moved on to the Nintendo Switch, and I'd rather see Nintendo's resources for game development go towards a system that more are playing. As cool as some of the later releases in the 3DS's life were, they didn't do as well as they could have if they released on a system that more people were excited about and playing more consistently at the time. You know what? After going through all that, I think I might change my mind on rumors. It can be pretty fun. From this day forward, I will only believe rumors, and if those rumors ever become facts,
I should get PhD? I'm not sure. Because I might, fuck, I don't know if I'd rather PhD for the red one or PhD for the OPG. I'm gonna wait to see where this next pack is. This is so good.
you see that? Every time the DB Shop is going down, it was just saying, look at DB Shop channel, right before it closed. And I kind of want to look at the Wii U eShop just for giggles. Not that the Wii U eShop is going to close. I will be dead in the ground by the time the Wii U eShop closes. But, how many times are you going to be looking at the Wii U eShop from here on out? I go on here like once a week, but, might as well take a look back at it, maybe relive some memories from, the Wii U generation. It's kind of like, reliving memories from worst era of your life, but, I still have a lot of fun memories with the Wii U, and, we can, there's some fun stuff with the eShop. I do remember enjoying the Wii U eShop. I did like this right here, you get a little game to play while you wait. It uses, icons from your system, and you have to match them up. You kind of have to have a Wii launch launch because the Wii U literally took forever to load. The first half year of its life. It was bad. Here we are. This is what Nintendo wants the Wii U to look like in the year 2020. It shows the stylus pen from the Wii U gamepad. It's fun. Let's see. This is probably the last thing Nintendo ever officially released for the Wii U, which is DLC for Breath of the Wild. I mean, Breath of the Wild was the last game Nintendo released in general for the Wii U, but the DLC, they are, no! Okay, as I was saying, the Breath of the Wild DLC is probably the last thing Nintendo ever released on the Wii U. I'm 99% certain of that. They probably released some update for the entire system, but that's probably the final thing right there. I'm so happy they feel it very necessary to highlight that it has Amiibo support. Nintendo Selects! Let's see what kind of Nintendo Selects came out. Okay, so they had Wind Waker HD. I remember the Nintendo Selects version of this was a little weird because the original release of Wind Waker HD had like a gold shiny box art. And I think they actually did some reprints of Wind Waker HD that just had kind of like, it was just this background. It's kind of hard to explain this way, but like you see this background right there. Now it's like, it's just a colorful background. The original box art was all like, the background was entirely golden, and then they reprinted it, and the box was just this colorful background. And then the Nintendo Slice version, I believe, was just a colorful background. See what everybody. So Wind Waker appeals to. It appeals to everybody. But it edges out the entrance round. Alright. And then what? Fun. Oh, this was so weird with the Wii U and 3DS eShops was that the one thing I feel like with Wii U and 3DS is I feel like Nintendo wanted them to be interconnected at some point. Like, you could see like some elements of that throughout their life. Like, the Wii U and 3DS share a lot in common, but they never really interacted with each other that much. Miiverse came to the 3DS, but that was about it. And they also made it so then like you would have like one singular eShop account where like you'd add money, you could add money to your Wii U account. And it would transfer, like, that money would transfer over to your 3DS account, and, like, if you spend that money on the Wii U, then, the money would be taken out of both your Wii U and 3DS accounts, and then you can use the rest of your money in your account on your 3DS games. And a lot of, like, the 3DS software, I'm pretty sure all of the 3DS software that was on the eShop could be, at least, like, viewed on the Wii U eShop. Yeah, like, you have all the videos, you have pictures, you have all this stuff, but you can't really do anything with it. You can add it to your wish list, but that's pretty much it. And I always just found that really weird because it always seemed like to me that Nintendo really wanted to kind of merge the 3DS and Wii U ecosystems together at some point. I feel like that was probably in the cards for them. Like, I think it would have been really nice to have like a 3DS player for the Wii U, where it would be like a USB dongle, and you could pop in a 3DS game, you could play it, and you have the two screens here. You have pretty much everything that you need to play 3DS games on the Wii U. But, that never happened. Nintendo Land, that was about as weird as Nintendo releasing Wii Sports as a Nintendo Slice for the Wii. I don't know how well that did. Because it's just like, why would you make such a big deal about Nintendo Land being like $20 now? Because everybody pretty much had Nintendo Land. Let's see, Pikmin 3. Well, Pikmin 3 hit $20. That was kind of my that was my golden goose right there. That was the official way I was able to buy Pikmin 3 because I always wanted Pikmin 3, and I think I actually got it because digitally, because when Mario Kart 8 came out, if you bought the game within the first like 2 months, you got there was like a promotion where if you registered to be a Club Nintendo, you get a download code for like Pikmin 3, New Super Mario Bros. U, Wii Party U, and Wind Waker HD. That's right, I remembered them all. And I got got Pikmin 3 because that was kind of the only one that I didn't have. Slash I felt was the best value because like I didn't have Wii Party U at the time, but I didn't need Wii Party U at the time. So I got Pikmin 3 digitally, but I refused to play it until I got like the game on a disc. And it was a big problem because Pikmin 3 was a little rare for a bit there. Like the physical copy was really hard to find and was getting kind of pricey. But then it became a Nintendo Selects, and that's how I played it. I played it in like 2016, and it is maybe my favorite video game. I mean, it's up there. It's like in the top 3. I love Pikmin 3. Let's see, the NES Remix title. For some reason, they included both of them in Nintendo Selects because NES Remix Black was a Nintendo Selects. Wait. Oh, that's fun. Donkey Kong Country Returns is a Nintendo Selects? I don't think it is here. It probably is one in, like, Europe. But I don't think it was a Nintendo Selects here. Yeah, this is still Nintendo Selects. Yeah.
Hey, hold up! You'll want to hear about all this earning. Love to see that cash back.
Oh, nice.
Hey all, Scott here. Apparently my input on Orchestra history is extremely important, so it really makes sense why after the French Revolution in most history textbooks it just says, well, what would Scott think? It's the middle class in 2011, and all these kids are discussing politics, which is better than the PlayStation 3 or Xbox 360. One of them asks Scott, which one do you prefer? And you ruin your credibility. Nintendo! Platform wars will forever be a thing. When you don't have anything better to do in your life, why not defend plastic? And when you blow thousands of dollars on a new computer or phone, you want to actively admit, yeah, yours is better. I'm the idiot. You want to make sure your purchase is justified and have everybody agree with you that the way you spent $400 is better than how I spent $400. This kind of debate is especially prevalent between platforms that are largely similar but have various minor pros and cons between each of them. And nowhere was that more of a thing than with the console wars of the 7th generation of video game consoles. 5 entered the ring. One was a runaway success, we don't count that. The other 2 were portable systems, they had their own pitch to price, so we were left with 2 systems. The PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360. Video game fans have always been pit against each other based on the consoles they use each and every generation, but never before were 2 consoles so perfectly balanced between their strengths and weaknesses. One console did well in one area, while the other faltered, but the other did well in an area the other couldn't even spell right. It's still up for debate nowadays which one is better. It's a very similar situation to what happened with the Sega Genesis and Super Nintendo back in the 90s. The difference was, the Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3 were more so civil tyrants, and the Genesis and Super Nintendo were only interested in what each other's blood tasted like. Console wars have definitely settled down between the companies over the years. What once was a war turned into a competitive picnic. But the Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3 were truly out to get each other. They didn't like each other one bit, which meant I know what I'm gonna do tonight. I'm gonna recall the history of these consoles duking it out, and afterwards we'll pit the 2 against each other in a variety of categories to see which one I end up personally preferring. I plan the best part is. The video game landscape and who was on top was and still is consistently changing. Atari was king until they were stupid. Nintendo overtook gaming for a while until Sega came along with the Genesis and actually outsold Nintendo's offerings for a bit there until they tried to succeed so hard they failed. Nintendo took over again, but then Sony came to the picture with the PlayStation and that blew up. If anything, this shows that when a new generation of systems comes along, it's out of the air it'll take the ground. It's never always Nintendo or always Sony, but it's never Sega. So, if you have the resources to create a video game console, go for it. Go for it. You have nothing to lose except everything. You have the potential to be the best-selling game console of all time. I'm telling my kids that. So when Sony was working on their next console, the PlayStation 2, Microsoft entered the ring by announcing the Xbox. That should give Sony a run for their money. I'm sure Sony keeps this photo on their nightstand. What happened here? But it makes sense for Sony to win, but by this much? Well, lots of things added to this happening. Well, I made the point that just because a company did well one generation doesn't mean that success will transfer over to the next. That most certainly happened here. The PlayStation was a huge hit, over 100 million consoles sold. The next one on the horizon being definitively called the PlayStation 2. What did you think would happen? It's like everybody loves bread. Bread 2 comes out, it's gonna sell well. The PS2 launched in the year 2000. Microsoft released the Xbox 1 year later, so not only did Sony get a year's head start on Microsoft, which meant by the time the Xbox released, the PS2 already had a year's worth of games in its library, But they also had brand recognition on their side. People knew what a PlayStation was. The Xbox scared people. Plus, DVDs were getting big at the time. The PlayStation 2 was a DVD player straight out the box. It had amazing exclusive games, plus pretty much all the third-party games you could possibly ask for. Even though the Xbox had a lot of these things going for it, they were only in spirit. You could as long as you bought the DVD remote accessory. Without this, you couldn't play DVDs. That was stupid. It had exclusive games, it had third-party stuff, but most exclusives, while not bad, it didn't really shape the world, and a lot of the biggest third-party games, while running and looking far better on the Xbox, came out a while after the PS2 versions did. The slow game put up a fair fight, but it obviously wasn't going to beat out the PlayStation 2. By the time it came out, Sony basically already won the generation. But of course, Microsoft wasn't discouraged by getting second place. People love this thing. Look at it. It's so buff. For a first timer, the Xbox did quite well. It beat out Nintendo's GameCube in terms of sales, and it did have at least one exclusive series that mattered. Halo. Most third-party games you want to play that generation did eventually come to the system. For a newcomer console, the Xbox did about as well as it could have possibly done. And Microsoft had the deep pockets to support it. I mean, this system rarely turned a profit ever. They may have sold a decent amount of them, but they were losing money on this thing. For most companies, if their first console didn't turn a profit, they'd normally say, let's get out of here. But Microsoft can afford to do anything they want. They have an endless supply of money. They can launch a game console, go to space, go bankrupt, whatever they want. They have so much money. The Xbox planted itself as a worthwhile brand, so Microsoft did the unthinkable. They never learned to count. The Xbox 360 was revealed on May 12, 2005 on MTV because TBS was busy that day. Microsoft was serious with making the system a massive deal and something that Sony should have been legitimately scared of. Instead, they were pretty confident with their next console, the PlayStation 3 success. But after your last two systems were the most popular systems in history, it's easy to get a big head and think anybody will buy something from Sony on it. Shortly after the Xbox 360's reveal, Sony revealed info on the PS3. How it was leaps and bounds more technologically advanced than Microsoft's offerings. I mean, this thing had it all. 2 USB ports, 3 more USB ports, another USB port. The entire system was built around something called the Cell Processor, which was a highly advanced technology that nobody knew how to use. It was pretty difficult for programmers to actually utilize the Cell Processor and make games for it. Sony was so arrogant after the past 2 generations that it was this mentality that developers would learn to program for it because we made the PlayStation 2, everybody loves us. Like, if the Cell Processor takes a lot of time to figure out, developers spend all their time making games for the PS3 because it's so difficult, they won't have time to make games for the Xbox 360. Sony knew they had brand recognition on their side, so decided to make the ultimate video game box. Backwards compatible with all generations of PlayStation, the most powerful architecture imaginable, a compact flashcard reader because you need that. They weren't constructing the world's most video game console, they were making a government supercomputer. It could do anything and everything you'd want a thing to do. It could play the up-and-coming high-def Blu-ray discs. Sony was banking on that being a huge selling point, much like a PS2 playing DVDs was. It had the best-looking games and the most USB ports. Sony knew people would flock to the PlayStation again instead of the Xbox, and they decided to make the greatest device they could because they knew people would buy it regardless of the cost, The Xbox 360 launched later in 2005, with the PlayStation 3 being slated for spring 2006 until being delayed to holiday 2006. Much like how the PS2 released a year ahead of the competition, I feel that the Xbox 360 doing the same did numbers to its success. Microsoft had a clear head start on Sony, which meant by the time the PS3 would launch, they'd have a beefy library of games at their disposal, potentially better price point of the console, larger install base of players, which was a big deal in the era of online gaming. Plus, they were the first console to show up what at the time was next-gen graphics, so by the time the PS3 would come out, it wouldn't have been as revolutionary looking. But Sony couldn't care less about Microsoft. They were confident that people would drop everything in their life at the moment for the right to buy a PlayStation 3. But then during their E3 2006 press conference, Sony said, you know what, we haven't done it in a while, let's do it. This conference will always live in infamy if you won't. Many stopped looking at the PS3 with excitement and instead with embarrassment. The entire presentation was awkward with how lines were delivered, and the games honestly looking pretty boring. A lot of this stuff didn't look that much better than what Microsoft was putting out, which made it sting even more when it ended with a mortgage. The 20GB PlayStation 3 will retail for $499 US and $549 Canadian dollars. And the 60GB PlayStation 3 for $599 US, $659 Canadian. Back then, I didn't even know that much money existed. To be fair, Sony was taking a loss on PlayStation 3s at that price point. These things were costing far more to produce than what they were selling them for. However, that didn't matter. It was so clear. Nobody wanted to spend $600 for the right to play this. This was when a lot of people sprung on the Xbox 360. The price point was fairly solid, and you got pretty much all the games that were coming to PS3, so you can't blame anybody for going this route. Holiday rolled around and the PS3 launched right before the Nintendo Wii, and people were going nuts. People were camping out waiting to scoop up these consoles and immediately sell them on eBay for a profit. I knew this would broke testing during flu season, I get it, but people were taking this incredibly seriously. The PS3 was expected to be a smash hit. Or failure, I'm open to that too. For the first few years of its life, the PS3 was the laughingstock of the gaming industry. It was overpriced and didn't have a ton of compelling exclusive games. Multi-platform titles often ran worse on the system because, one, the Xbox 360 was easier to develop for, so developers would make games for it first and then hastily port it over to PS3, and B, the Xbox 360 was more popular, so developers would make games for it first and then hastily port it over to PS3. I mean, that thing had a bigger library and more exclusives initially, with a lower starting price compared to the PS3. It was obvious if you wanted a new console, comparing it to the 360 just made more sense. And now the PS3 ads were fucking weird. See, that just shows how arrogant Sony was at the time. They thought, oh, we'll creep people out with our PlayStation 3 commercials. It's the PS3, people want it regardless. But the PS3's problems didn't mean the 360 was having the greatest of times. More and more hardware malfunctionings were occurring. This model was notorious for failure, showing off the infamous red ring of death, which meant your system was pretty much done so. Although it was doing better sales-wise, Microsoft had to deal with repairs, with a crazy amount of warranties, and overall just had to live with the bad press that 360 got when it came to reliability. So, one had no games, and the other didn't work. You really had to pick your poison. Within the first year, Sony took drastic steps to improve the PlayStation 3. Price from features that were sort of worthless to reduce costs. I will never forget UC of card reader. More and more exclusives were coming out, like Little Big Planet and Uncharted, but right when Sony was starting to turn things around, Microsoft just had to release Halo 3. This may be one of the biggest moments in gaming history, just based on the energy spreading of launch alone. Everybody knew Halo 3 was launching. It was a big deal. But then after that, Microsoft kind of gave up. The 360 no doubt had loads of fantastic exclusive games, but most of the big ones came in the first few years of that system's life. Gears of War, Viva Pinata, Crackdown, it all led up to Halo 3, and then afterwards, I mean, Sega these games came out, but really, Microsoft kind of got content with where they were at and stopped fighting games so hard. Sony continued to fund exclusive games and reduced the PS3's price until finally giving it a much-needed redesign that was smaller and was featured in a new ad campaign that highlighted the system's unique features. Microsoft kept at it with redesigning the system's user interface, offering focusing on media consumption with sentience. As time went on, it followed the whole controversy. With excellent games while Microsoft was trying to transform the Xbox 360 into this all-in-one entertainment hub for everybody, which was the initial mission statement of the PlayStation 3. Both companies tried their hands at motion controllers to combat the Nintendo Wii, Sony had the PlayStation Move and Microsoft the Kinect. While both were equally stupid in their own right, the Move felt more like a way to turn your PS3 into a Wii. You're into that sort of thing. The Kinect felt more like something Microsoft wanted everybody to have and positioned it as a replacement for the Wii. You can control the games with your body, that's insane! I fucking hated my thumbs anyways! The Kinect did insanely well, much better than the PlayStation Move. But that came at a cost. While Sony was focusing on making legitimately good video games to win back the trust of the gaming community, Microsoft fully shifted the Xbox brand into casual all-in-one entertainment after the Kinect's success. At least they released a redesigned system that actually worked this time. The last couple years of these systems' active lives before their successors released were fairly different. Sony just kept pumping out exclusive after exclusive, getting games to come to PS3 with exclusive content, while Microsoft kept focusing on Halo, Gears of War, Forza, Kinect, Call of Duty thrown in there with all the DLC coming to Xbox first. The 360 was still ahead, but was losing the support of the hardcore community, while Sony was doing wonders in regaining trust and rebuilding the PS3's image. While Sony still had PlayStation Network hacking out in 2011, they stood strong and focused on making the PlayStation 3 the gamer's console. Both systems received one more redesign later in their lives. These ones focused on giving us consoles so cheap I can try to break it over my knee. Keyword try. Sony had one more ace up their sleeve with The Last of Us releasing in summer of 2013, right before the launch of their next console, PlayStation. Favorite games of all time as exclusive. And a lot of people pick up a PlayStation 3 mere months before the next PlayStation was coming out. That's pretty impressive. Throughout all of this, while the Xbox 360 was winning the war for most of the generation, and all was said and done, it was actually Sony who ended up winning. Yeah, this is so crazy to me. I still always look at the Xbox 360 as the winner in terms of sales, and while that was true for the majority of its life, the PlayStation 3 picked up so much steam later on, it actually ended up winning.
A classic underdog story. It always warmed my heart to see a multi-billion-dollar corporation win at the end of the day.
But who really won? Sony. But who do I think wins overall? So it's come down to this. I'm gonna pit these two consoles against each other in 9 categories and see which one ends up winning based on my preferences. Now, my personal history with these consoles was I was always a Nintendo guy. My state government already knows that. But in 2011, I had enough of being the only guy in school who didn't have something they couldn't play Barrel Blast. So I had to decide that I want an Xbox 360 or a PlayStation 3. Both had USR 2, so it really didn't matter. I ended up going with the Xbox 360, but I always wondered if things would be different on the other side. I finally bit the bullet 5 years later and bought a used red PlayStation 3. I barely use this thing. So this is the perfect opportunity to play this for the first time and play this to bring back memories and see which one comes out on top. Both of these systems have had 3 different designs released throughout their lives, and first iterations are both absolutely iconic. This system looks like a fun box. This system looks like a space heater. I don't think the original PS3 looks bad by any means. It's like it's trying its hardest to look futuristic and expensive and just ended up looking like it really wanted to be taken seriously and instead got called a fucking grill. Both of these are pretty beefy consoles. I'd be worried if I swallowed one. I do think the original Xbox 360 had more of a personality though. You can swap out the faceplates. I think every company tries this at least once and then never again, but this was a neat little idea. At least the PS3's PlayStation wanted to be rotated based on its orientation.
Who fucked the bug?
More of a personality though. You can swap out the faceplates. I think every company tries this at least once and then never again, but this is a neat little idea. At least the PS3's PlayStation wanted to be rotated based on its orientation. Yeah, we need models. Some variants of both systems. Now, I will say both of these were desperately needed. The PS3 needed a more cost-effective and attractive model, and the 360 needed a model that actually worked. Definitely, the 360S was the most necessary revision, with the original being plagued by the red ring of death, no Wi-Fi built in, no HDMI built in, yeah. And it's expensive, but only had 1 gigabytes of storage. That's worth us. To be fair, around 2007, Microsoft released the Xbox 360 Elite with HDMI built in. Maybe it's still the original design. I'm worried this is going to catch on fire, and I don't even own one. The PS3 Slim, while it offered a bit of a stripped-down version in comparison to the original, was an excellent upgrade in terms of aesthetics. It just looks so good, and still retains a lot of the character of the original model. Of course, you can always go cheaper, so Sony released the PS3 Super Slim. Please go back. So this is kind of cute. Look at this. It's like a bathroom stall. The disc tray is a bit problematic on here. It's not terrible, but it's so much cheaper. It's so much louder. Every time when I open it, pop a disc in and shut it, doesn't shut all the way. I have to nudge it slightly to get it closed properly. And this one started at 12 gigabytes of storage. Yes. Now this was obviously made the super cheap entry-level PS3. It's nowhere near as sturdy or substantial feeling as the Slim or the original. And I can't say this is a bad option to have. It's still a PS3. It's fine. I like that they tried something different and stupid, but it is undoubtedly the cheapest feeling one. It just doesn't feel like it matters. Well, Microsoft decided to complain to cheaper consoles and came up with this during sleep paralysis. The Xbox 360E. This is one of my least favorite looking consoles of all time. This released the same year as the Xbox One, so they decided to redesign the 360 to look more like the Xbox One, and who doesn't want to look more like the original Xbox One? The 360 has had a great look. I liked how sleek it was, how it was subtly X-shaped. That was great. So why do this? It just looks confused and scared. So both consoles had ups and downs with their designs, but if I had to choose one,
Fucking idiot.
the PS3 was the most consistently solid. I don't hate any of these designs. The Super Slim's totally cheap, and the original is totally fat, but they all look at the very least fine. I really do like that original 360 design, but it didn't have one. That as soon as you bought it. It had problems, and while the S was a great upgrade to reliability, features, and overall design, they just completely ruined the 360's future. The controller is what makes video games a fun man's game. The Xbox 360 is often cited as having one of the best controllers of all time. It just feels so substantial, the button placement, the sticks, triggers, everything feels perfect. Of course, it does have some issues. The D-pad is on a similar level to Vlad the Impaler. They updated it later on to be a transforming D-pad, swing it around to be actively okay. It uses AA batteries for power, which was a bit outdated even for the time. Microsoft would later release Play and Charge kits though, which allowed you to simply use a rechargeable battery. Pay extra for it, but at least you have the option. But overall, this is still easily one of the greatest controllers out there. Now, completely unrelated note, the PlayStation 3 controller. So it initially released as the 6-axis, which had no rumble, that got updated to the DualShock 3, which was everything the 6-axis was, but with rumble. I persuade you to be confused today. But all PS3 controllers basically look the same, which means they all look the same as PS2 controllers, which look the same as PS1 controllers, which were basically the same as a Super Nintendo controller. Sony used the exact same controller design for 3 consoles at this point. They broke, don't fix it, sure, but they kept cramming these modern technologies into a decade-old design. It was easy to see some cracks forming. It's a bit small for my liking. I was never the biggest fan of the thumbstick placements, and they added analog triggers. I think their design made it easy for your fingers to slip off of them. There's also not as much weight to this controller as the 360, which makes these feel a lot flimsier and more fragile. Just holding it, you can feel how easy it would be to snap this in two. But the 360
I'm
I don't feel it at all.
It's over.
The controller is rechargeable.
It's fucking over.
Well, the battery life is pretty alright. The 360 controller with double A's lasted.
Obviously, it doesn't have
I understand that now.
controller around, but my holy galaxy gimmicky.
People considered the Wii gimmicky back then, and justifiably so. But the PS3 controller had motion controls as well, and every implementation I've seen of motion controls with this controller.
Fuck! Oh my god!
At least somebody had bowling going for it. Now, the PS3 controller does look pretty classy, much more elegant. The 360 controllers on your couch, I mean, you hit your girlfriend, your fingernails look disgusting.
This has more claps, but it's still better in nearly every way to me.
Shit, we don't have fucking...
It makes little issues, but this is pretty damn near close to perfect. The PS3 controller isn't bad, but it's just not as rock solid as the competition. The Xbox 360 had so many accessories. A way to play HD movies, a Wi-Fi adapter to the PS3 have those. The PlayStation 3 was the ultimate package. You could play Blu-rays right out of the box, use HDMI, connect to Wi-Fi, play PS1 games, PS2 games, everything. As long as you had the best models. Some of these features, namely Wi-Fi connectivity and PS2 game support, were taken out of lower-end PS3s originally to make them as cheap as possible. It does make buying these older models a bit more confusing, as most people don't really know how to differentiate a PS2-compatible Wi-Fi-enabled PS3 in the wild. That's why it's easier to compare the features of the second revisions of each console onwards, and easily, the PS3 still has the most features. Of course, Blu-ray support out of the box. The Xbox 360 had an adapter to play HD DVDs. You're welcome, humanity. But the fact you had to buy a separate disc drive for a soon-to-be obsolete format at the time, it just didn't stack up to the PS3. That was one of the biggest draws for the system, the Blu-ray support. It was the only system to have it at the time, and it was a great feature. Of course, you had the Xbox Live Vision camera, which was just a garbage webcam. You can't forget that. PS3 had the PlayStation Eye, but both of these evolved into the major accessories for the console, the Kinect and PlayStation Move. The Kinect was a camera that could sense your whole body. You could control the games with no controller. The PlayStation Move used the PlayStation Eye to read words. Yeah, the Kinect automatically had more marketing potential and definitely did better right out the gate. The Move was a fine accessory, but it more so felt like a way to let the PS3 play Wii-type games. The Kinect, as terrible as it could be, allowed for much more possibilities with games not playable with standard controllers. But at least the PlayStation Move didn't take its company and obliterate it for 4 years straight. Kinect forced Microsoft into a and made the mic ambition in the gaming landscape. The PlayStation Move, while it wasn't as exciting at the time, was used in less offensive ways. It was often just an option, and it worked society for Sony rather than the core focus. But Kinect had more games for it that I think justified a purchase. If you're really buying a PlayStation Move to make people leave your house, there just wasn't a ton of compelling software for it. Now, Kinect had a ton more absolute garbage, but at least justified itself with some titles, plus the idea of it more out of the PlayStation Move. With that said, I think all the features packed into the PlayStation 3, plus its motion controller being non-obtrusive and fine, I think I'll give the features and accessories point to PS3. Kinect had more purpose, but it was locked down with imprecise controls, terrible games, and overall tanking Microsoft's image in the latter half of the 360's life. Games like Kinect Sports and Dance Central may have been decent enough to warrant purchase, and more iconic than the entirety of games that required PlayStation Move, but they just aren't a big enough deal to really make me pass and prefer the Kinect to them. I could go with one or the other most of the time. The PS3's suite of features, I think it takes this round. Which of these systems is the easiest to use while not compromising on options? Well, the 360's user interface has changed 3 times throughout the years, each one having their own fans, until landing on this one. Honestly, I never had much of a problem with this interface. It's quick and snappy, everything is laid out in an understandable fashion. It makes sense. I don't think I've had to look up where certain things are.
Hard consider XML is actually really well done.
Hey, this works quite well. The PS3 has had the cross-media bar since launch. It's updated a bit, but it's generally been the same vibe for years. I do like this. I think it's well thought out. It makes sense. You have all the general things you can do on left and right, and then up and down are the options within the option you selected. Though I do think that this interface is a bit plain compared to all of the 360s, and it's a bit too many options. If we go to settings, it's really difficult to tell which settings
That is true, that's something really better.
PS3, when we adjust something, half the time I don't know which option to pick. I definitely have to Google how to adjust things every time. Hey, at least we have tons of things to mess around with. But holy do I hate using this thing. The PS4 is a temperamental child. There's always something going on with it. Of course, the infamous updates. Pretty much every time I boot a game up, there's an update. There's something I have to install. Of course, most of the time I can't do anything in the background. I have to sit and watch this thing load. And this thing freezes up so much more than the 360. Installing, loading, updates. I'm always at the end of my seat when the PS3 is doing any of this because there's a solid chance something's gonna go wrong. The Xbox 360 is simpler and just works most of the time. I pop in a game, if it has to update, it downloads it pretty fast. Barely many games have to install stuff. The interface is simple but
I mean, one of those ones, man.
the PS3 is in the top 40 worst PlayStation consoles, but on a more positive note, it's ancestors don't be really understood by Emily's immigration experience. The top 40 best. Online play was incredibly important during this generation. I should know, I barely used it. But both of these systems did lean heavily into the online multiplayer crowd. If you were buying one of these systems, you gave a shit. Xbox 360 was generally considered the king of online multiplayer. The connection was great, the interface for setting up parties and hopping into games was simple and intuitive. Good stuff. PS3 wasn't bad, but it wasn't as elegant as
PS3, this is hard as well.
through the years. It took a while, but the PS3 eventually got that's not fair. I had a mouth to feed. Xbox Live Gold was $60 a year. Now, per year, that's not too bad. It's pretty reasonable. But if you wanted a slightly spottier service for free a year, you could buy a PS3 and spend that $60 you would have spent on online multiplayer on a new video game. Instead, you could have paid for surgery. Now, Sony did offer a paid online service, PlayStation Plus. This service gave you the ability to play betas for upcoming games, gave you exclusive sale prices for games, and updates could be downloaded to your console automatically instead of having to sit through it every time. You had to pay for that? The biggest deal was that you get free games every month downloaded to your system for as long as you kept your Plus membership. Xbox would later offer monthly free games for Xbox Live Gold members in 2013, right before their next console would come out. Great. PlayStation Plus was kind of cool, but they put some weird features behind a premium paywall. Just to watch something like Netflix on the Xbox 360, something you already had to pay for monthly, you needed a gold subscription. That's dumb. But if I had to choose between the two, the 360 did have the better online components. Both did some dumb things, but we're also used to paying for online multiplayer now. That's not that big of a deal. Generally speaking, which console looked the best? Most people probably know the PlayStation 3 was more powerful than the Xbox 360. Yes, wonderful. That's got answer. Now, when you compare the two,
Fuck, I don't want to keep this.
already
It's fucking sad of me.
phenomenal at the time. The 360 games didn't look that much worse.
I have to keep it though. Oh shit.
Install base for most of its life and was easier to develop for. Most third-party games ended up looking better on 360 because they were made with that hardware in mind. Now this isn't a huge deal, by better I really mean it. We're splitting hairs here, but 360 does look slightly nicer. Playing something like Bioshock Infinite on the PS3, I did notice a lot more dirty-looking textures compared to the 360 version. The third-party games look and run a bit better on 360 most of the time. And while there are a handful of cases where the PS3 version of the game is drastically worse than the 360 one, most of the time, it's not that noticeable. Playing the PS3 version isn't much different at all from the 360 one. But the developers working exclusively with the PS3 developers who actually took the time to figure out how to use the system to the best of its abilities. God, some of these games are just as good as PlayStation 4 titles. Just comparing two exclusives for each system that released in 2011, Gears of War 3 and Uncharted 3, Uncharted does look better. But the 360 can do some really impressive stuff, like really impressive. Just look at Rise of the Tomb Raider on the system from 2015. This was an Xbox One game, but the 360 version looks incredible for the console. It doesn't even require an install or multiple discs. The Xbox 360 can put out some crazy graphics, but the PlayStation 3 at its best will always look a little bit better to me. God, I hope my new video game console can play my older games even though I'll never play them. Backwards compatibility is such a luxury to have. You can barely use it. And the PlayStation 3 initially was said to be the ultimate PlayStation. It could play all generations. And then the PS2 support was taken out of the cheaper models to cut costs. and then they got rid of it entirely. Hey, the Xbox 360 can play original Xbox games. This is the ultimate pleasure. Could you imagine a worse note to get on your windshield? So both consoles have trouble with playing older games. All PS3s play PS1 discs, but a specific version of the original model is the only one that can play PS2 games. Some PS1 and PS2 games are available to download from the PlayStation Network store, and various PS2 games are re-released in high definition VA collections. So regardless, you had some options on PS3. The Xbox 360 can play a little less than half of the original Xbox library. Microsoft would update the 360 every now and then, offering more and more original Xbox games that were supported until they just gave up. Even though most of the major Xbox releases you'd care to play are supported, many of them have issues. The Wikipedia list of the Xbox games that were backwards compatible has a specific column denoting issues, so that's all right there. Those games run fine enough. Many older titles were re-released via downloads on Xbox Live Arcade and PlayStation Network. While Xbox Live Arcade was easily the more popular of the two, most legacy titles appeared on both services. These two both had their problems with playing legacy content. PS3 had the most options and only supported PS1 discs. I already talked about how third-party multi-platform games generally look to run better on Xbox 360, and yeah, that's generally the case. Sometimes third-party games have to install trash on PS3, but they just immediately boot on the 360. Like, come on! Most of the time, the graphical differences are incredibly minor. It's the point where I'd say, if you're playing a third-party game on PS3, and you don't have much to worry about, it's not a big deal. But to combat any graphical differences, many third-party PS3 games offer exclusive content. That's exclusive characters in fighting games, exclusive missions and modes, PlayStation Move support. That's all pretty cool. Xbox 360 versions really didn't have much to offer in comparison. The Call of Duty DLC came to Xbox first. Jeez, I better get Black Ops 2 in 2020. But most of the time, PS3 offered legitimate gameplay reasons to want to own that version instead of the 360 one. Even having PlayStation Move support in Bioshock Infinite, that's way cooler than offering Kinect support in Mass Effect 3, where it's literally just screeching at your Xbox to make choices on screen. And some people like playing shooters with motion controls. It was a cooler incentive than noise complaints. However, a lot of these exclusive features didn't amount to a lot. They were cool incentives, but to be honest, most third-party games were made for Xbox 360, and thus, they just work better on the platform. Most major third-party games came to each console. You weren't missing out on much if you were a big THQ nut and you owned the 360. What this all boils down to is, which console had the best exclusive games? The Xbox 360 had Halo, Gears of War, Fable, Forza, Crackdown. PlayStation 3 had Uncharted, Resistance, Little Big Planet, Ratchet & Clank, Sly Cooper, Killzone, Infamous, God of War, Metal Gear Solid 4, Gran Turismo, Mod Nation Racers, Puppeteer, The Last of Us. Okay, this may be a bit unfair. To give Microsoft credit, they did quite a good job in the first half of the 360's life with exclusives. I mean, Halo 3's launching will always be one of the biggest events in gaming history. Even looking at the best PlayStation 3 exclusives, they just don't hold a candle to the amount of excitement around the world for that one game. Gears of War was huge, and Forza took over the racing sim crown from Gran Turismo. Like, my god, they had Forza games releasing every single year, and the Gran Turismo team was just like, here's a prequel to Gran Turismo 5, because for some reason we're taking 20 years to make it. And for some reason they put out Gran Turismo 6 after the PlayStation 4 launch. With digital bite-sized titles, Xbox Live Arcade was far better. They had so many fun experiences on there. The PSN, they secured games like Bioshock and Mass Effect. Mass Effect 2 was exclusive for a year. Now, each of these games came to PS3 eventually, and timed exclusives aren't my idea for a fun afternoon. It really showed they meant business. They got Grand Theft Auto to jump away from being a timed PlayStation exclusive franchise. They got Final Fantasy to come to Xbox finally. They really cared, and then they gave up. Once Kinect rolled around, they let their guard down. Sony was already starting to kill it. Funny exclusive content. Not only were they making amazing exclusive games, but sequels to those games. Not only were these games great, but they had a huge variety of games exclusive to the PlayStation 3. There's some reason the only things people think about when Xbox is brought up are Halo, Gears of War, and Forza. Kinect exclusives can be sort of cute, but when I said that, Sony put up The Last of Us. Jesus, one of the most critically acclaimed games of all time. Tag got so many people to buy a PS3. And then you had some of the more unknown games. Puppeteer is really charming. And not all PS3 exclusives were winners. Some of them definitely missed the mark. But many PS3 exclusives were truly experiences worth investing in a PS3 pool. The PS3 may have been rough around the edges and difficult to use in many areas, but I don't even have to finish this sentence. So the PS3 won, which is weird considering that I used a 360 back in the day. To be fair, it could have gone either way, but based on my personal taste at the moment, I think the PS3 comes out on top. Even if it's an absolute bitch to use. But turns out, I'm not blind by nostalgia or love for a specific company. I picked the PS3 when the 360 was the console I owned. So, that's a plus in my RDA field. The only thing the PS3 can use is a version of Mario Party 9. This game's actually terrible, but I love it because it's made by Nintendo.
Once again.
Doctor gives you a prescription. CVS can deliver it in 1 to 2 days. But aren't you glad you could also just swing by to pick it up and get your questions answered? That's how healthier happens together with CVS.
Hey, old Scott here. It's been 4 years since I felt brilliant.
The Nintendo Switch has worn me out so much